Hey everyone, this is Jack with the Cardboard Herald, and today we are taking a look at some promotional content that I have received for the new Everdell expansions that are coming up on the horizon, like Everdell Mistwood and Everdell Newleaf, and the complete collection here. I don't know what I'm going to do with these posters, but I actually do have some materials from the new expansion to share with you. Now, I don't have everything. I only have a tiny little bit. In fact, it's just this tiny little box here. But unlike what would traditionally be one of my videos, I'm just going to be going through everything that I have here, taking a look at it, sharing some of my thoughts, because I don't necessarily have the full context and all of the components and everything to look at, but within, we can actually extrapolate quite a bit about what to expect in Newleaf and Mistwood. So let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about outside of these luxurious and somewhat ludicrous posters that were sent as promotional material is the stack of small cards that we have here. And yeah, there's all the critters and there's the constructions, and we'll get to those, but we all know that I am about dem meeples, and this is where we get our asymmetric player powers, and we have pigs and stoats and spiders and butterflies and honeybees and cats and snails and bats. Oh my. These are going to be the new meeples that are available in the game associated with the different expansions. You'll see the different symbols that we have up here. There's a spider web, which is for Mistwood, not to be confused with the Hobbit's Mirkwood, even though it's a dark and dangerous spider-filled forest of mystery and magic. And then we have the Newleaf gear symbol here, because Newleaf is all about this train that's built and is coming through Everdell and is all about visitors and that kind of stuff. But as you'll see, as a consistent theme with everything that we're taking a look at today, a lot of this is about freeing up the limitations of Everdell's past. A lot of these are cards that don't railroad you, ironically, even though there's a railroad expansion, into specific strategies. I mean, if you look at, for example, honeybees here, whenever you play a non-green card, you may discard one card to activate a growth in your city. That's just a boss power, no matter what strategy you're leaning into. Cats, you can co-occupy locations in. I mean, these are just cool things that give you a little boost without saying, hey, you have to play this one game and lean into this one specific thing. And that's something that some of Everdell's content in the past didn't necessarily allow you to do, which we'll see with this next batch of cards. You guys can get out of here. Go away. Go away. Okay, another one of the really exciting things is the continued broadening of the event cards that we have. So we have all of these different events, and if you recall my Bellfaire review, one of my favorite things about the expansion, even though I really liked the asymmetric character powers, I really liked that the events were no longer tied to specific critters, and here we have even more of that. I mean, we have Big City, which is just 15 cards in a city. We have different things associated with the symbols that you could have in your city, or I really like this one, have achieved at least 3 other events, or we have 9 critters in your city. These are, again, things that give you parameters for making interesting choices, whether you pursue them or whether you don't. And the old ones that had specific critters and locations that you had to have come up was becoming increasingly more difficult with the more cards that were being added to your decks. And sometimes you would never see this specific combination of things come up or have the opportunity to get these special events. And so I like seeing these ones that will impact you from the beginning of the game when you're making choices, no matter how you broaden your city, about how they may relate to these things. So love seeing more of this. And then for the last of the little cards, we got some more forest locations. I mean, these are pretty basic. 4 twigs is nothing to snuff your nose at, but copy any forest location, that's a pretty sexy ability. Other than that, this is just kind of more stuff, more variability, more replayability, but on the whole, it's pretty boring. Now we get to the big boys, the big cards. This is where we get into some of the more tonal stuff of the expansion. So we have some promo content that's been integrated here, which I'll get into in a little bit. I think that'll be the last thing that we visit. And then we have some of the Mistwood farm stuff. Again, we'll visit that towards the end here. And we'll take a look at the stuff that's mainly associated with Newleaf. And that's this big fat stack of cards we have here. A lot of critters and a lot of locations. And then we also have these new occupancy tokens. Now, these are tokens that are for like prototype purposes. I could cut them out here and we could use them. But players are going to get 3 of these, and some things are going to require the golden occupancy tokens, which you have that limitation on. And once you use them, they're done. But these are going to be more powerful powers. So you have a resource that you only can use so much of, and you have to be careful about overusing it. As far as the organic integration and how often you're going to use those, I don't know. I'm interested, but also somewhat skeptical about this. The utility of it, is it going to feel like something that's just kind of a side mechanic that doesn't really feel cohesively integrated to the game, or is it something that's really meaningful to Everdell? But we'll see. And now we get into the critters, and boy, do I have some things to say about this pig. This is some of Andrew Bosley's best artwork to date. It's kind of ridiculous how charming and adorable this pig is, and it just underscores the overall effort in establishing tone that Everdell does. It goes so much beyond so many other games, and yes, a lot of people would say, for such a simple game, why do you need this level of extravagance? But my counter argument would be, what other simpler games have this sort of deep and immersive and luxurious extravagance to it? And I think that there are games for all types of people. And as far as a lighter worker placement game that has a lot of strategy, this is probably the gold standard for a premium paint job that you could have, and Andrew Bosley really knocked it out of the park on some of the artwork here. Also, if we just look at the first few characters that we have listed, the gardener is a common critter that's a one-time use that activates 2 different growth powers in your city and can be put into any growth construction, which is, again, huge amount of versatility and flexibility as you develop. Here can be in any of their respective locations. The magician allows you to discard critters or constructions in order to get points and resources. This seems to be about Everdell kind of broadening and giving you more options as you develop. And here we have more of the artwork that was featured on the different characters that will be represented by different meeples. We have some really cool stuff. I mean, look at this. Frickin' bee is a baker and has some bread there. I want to eat that bee's bread. Then we got stoats and hats, Chipsmith. But what about this armadillo? Where's our armadillo meeples? I mean, surely the miller should get his own character power. And I like this again here. You may pay up to 1 stone to gain 3 points. I mean, a lot of Everdell, there's this focus on the ability to score immediate points, but it rarely feels meaningful, like a really good trade. But paying 1 stone for 3 points every time you activate with growth, and there's so many additional growth options now, that is a really, really good trade that I think I could be snagging some of those mid-game points a lot earlier with characters like that. We got butterflies, inventors, really love the purple on this card. And then the mayor rounds out all the rest of the critters that we have and the stuff that was given to me as far as the main non-promo stuff here. Again, just interesting powers, can go to any construction up here, and then any of the specific types of construction, so that flexibility and freedom that you can capitalize on. And let's go to those constructions. The big theme of Newleaf, other than trains, is travel and the presence of the accommodations for people coming into your town to visit Everdell from other regions, because this is such a prosperous and beautiful land. And so we have trains and other aspects of trains like freight cars. We have the balloons and these hotels to accommodate guests. One of the cards that really jumped out to me was Main Road. I mean, I really love this. It counts as an additional space in your city and does not take up space in your city. So it's actually allowing you to bring in more. And look at this. This can have any common critter, and then this can have any unique critter, and then here are specific types of critters, but still any within that type. Flexibility is king in this new expansion. We got bank and museum and library, and the tea house is one of my favorite constructions from a visual standpoint. This thing looks incredible. I thought immediately of the beehive, but this again is any common critter. And then City Hall, Everwall, and Greenhouse. I really like that Everwall doesn't take up a space in your city, and you get 2 points for every 5 spaces you have filled in your city. So if you use these cards that don't take up space in your city and just attract more and more in, you can capitalize on this, and it gives you just another one of those really high cost buildings that can be a huge source of points as you go on. And then, if we shove away all this, we get into some of this other content. Now, farms, and then Corrin Evertale. Oh, and these legendary bros that we'll get into in just a bit. But the reason why I want to tackle Corrin Evertale and the farm at the same time is because another thing that I really like about this expansion, at least the content that I'm seeing so far, is that there's an emphasis on having sort of a developing story that isn't strictly narrative that's presented to you. Now, these farms, they are part of the Mistwood expansion, and they replace the farms that you already have. And if you look, they're still all farms, so they still have the same occupancy, but they also have different abilities. Doesn't take up space in your farm, or over here you get choices on different ones, and then more choices on different things. Discard this farm to gain different things. And if you look at the artwork, each one is kind of telling a story of the different seasons and the characters within. This is Everdell at its heart, trying to communicate to us something about the denizens there, and I think it's fantastic. And again, a great example of how much emotion and tone Bosley can convey through his art. Which brings us to Corrin Evertale, and if you are a Redwall fan, which I am a Redwall fan, then you are immediately going to think of Martin the Warrior, because we have Corrin Evertale's farm and his path, and then him as a leader, and Corrin Evertale the Warrior. I mean, come on, it is absolutely referencing Martin the Warrior, or I figure it's gotta. Of course, Martin didn't necessarily become the king, and had kind of a worse ending here, but check out that mouse goatee on him. This is a promo pack. I'm not exactly sure how Corrin is going to be involved, other than these are just different aspects of Corrin's life. But again, trying to tell a story about the history of Everdell, which is cool to have that represented and referenced in these different cards. It gives it more of a cohesive lore than what we've seen in the past. And then the last thing that I have here are the legendary constructions and characters, which is an expansion in itself. I think it's a promo here, but it's an expansion to some of the deluxe edition content from the original Everdell. And if you remember my review, one of my complaints was I don't think the deluxe edition should sequester these away to be a luxury item. I thought that these should be things that are available from the get-go. Now, part of that was because I wanted a little bit of asymmetry to Everdell, and I still think that that's a cool thing to have these legendary critters and legendary constructions, but the asymmetric powers that are now available through these expansions, as well as the Bellfaire expansion, give me enough that I don't feel like the legendary stuff is mandatory inclusion now, but I am glad to see that there's more of it and taking into account some of the more modern design philosophy and development of this game. They have great artwork, great personality. I especially like Stray Softpaw here. And you can activate 2 depleted workers on basic or force locations for yourself, either yours or your opponent's. A lot of these type of locations that you could go to on character cards or construction cards, I found weren't as useful in traditional Everdell, but a lot of these new ones have more enticing capabilities that I think I'm going to be utilizing that sort of stuff a lot more often. All right, so that is it for what I have today. Now, there are a couple of other things I wanted to point out. The promotional information that I got did indicate that Mistwood is going to have an automated opponent, a Spider Queen, I'm guessing, or something, to draw some more of those Mirkwood parallels. You know, a Shelob-esque character who's going to be able to fill out lower player count games. You can play against her with a 1-player, 2-player, or 3-player game. So interesting, but I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And also, Mistwood is going to have a big box that if you buy Mistwood, it will allow you to pack away tightly the vast sum of Everdell content that you have at this point if you've been keeping up with the game, which is downright necessity, if I'm honest at this point. So that has been a video and a half. I know this has been a little bit more dry of a video. Lots of new information if you're a big Everdell fan, but not my typical type of video that I put together. But nonetheless, it was a fun adventure anyway. Thanks again. I've been Jack with the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.